Welcome to the Venari Podcast. My name is Joe Knight. I lead the commercial practice within the life science and healthcare team at Venari Partners. Today, I'm joined by Cathy Collis, Chief Commercial Officer at Vibrant Gastro. Cathy is an experienced commercial leader, having held roles in Big Pharma at Merck and Novartis before moving to Ironwood, where she spent 8 years leading their marketing, US and global function. Now, as CCO at Vibrant Gastro, she's leading their commercial efforts and building the team. In the podcast today, we're covering launch lessons, crucial capabilities, and how to build an excellent commercial function. Hi, Cathy. Welcome to the Venari Podcast.
Joe, it's so great to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Brilliant to have you. So, Cathy, tell us about your experience to date. How did you get into the pharma industry and how did you become Chief Commercial Officer at Vibrant Gastro?
Well, I've had the opportunity to work for large and small companies, but I really got my start on the payer side of the business. And actually, I think the payers become such an important part of the equation, of the commercial equation. But I started at Merck and Novartis, and I cut my teeth really, building brands there and getting great training. As my career progressed, I actually found that I was more interested in entrepreneurial and innovative kinds of organizations. So I went from really large organizations to medium-sized organizations, and now I find myself in a really interesting place with a smaller company, but with the potential to build something that could be equal in size in terms of revenue of the products that some of those larger organizations have invented and commercialized over the years.
So you're now Chief Commercial Officer at Vibrant Gastro. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about that organization and what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah, Vibrant's a very interesting company, and I think Vibrant's innovation is really groundbreaking for adults with chronic constipation. It really represents a trend in electronics jump-starting innovation in the device space. So this is not a drug treatment; it's a drug-free treatment. I think of it as relief without the medicine, and it's really born in understanding of human biology and how constipation symptoms get in the way and how our intestinal functioning is supposed to work. So we have a treatment that mimics peristalsis by stimulating mechanoreceptors in the gut. It's a very easy to use treatment, and it's now recently been approved by the FDA in the United States. So we're building out our team, as you said, and bringing this new treatment to patients. It's exciting.
So you're in the launch period at the moment. You've obviously worked on multiple launches throughout your career.
Yeah.
Are there any fundamental lessons that you've taken from those processes, things you do differently, looking back and reflecting now?
I think you can never be prepared enough for a launch. I think of the launch in sort of sequences and stages. First, and this is peri-launch, if you will, while you're still in development, you really have to prepare your market, especially if you're bringing something that's different and or innovative. So we've spent a lot of time at Vibrant preparing the market and building advocacy. And then you have to prepare your brand. There is, I think, a lot of work that goes into building a great iconic brand. So that's the second stage. And then the last one is preparing the organization, because you have to build a team. And in our case, we have to be able to scale that over time. So we're thinking about what are the capabilities that we really need from a people perspective, from a process perspective, and from a technology perspective.
And we're thinking there about crucial capabilities for biopharma companies. What do you think those are? I
think in the case of our organization, not only do we have an innovative product, but I also think that we get the chance to build an innovative commercial model. And that's what's attractive to me about working in a space like this, is you've got something quite differentiated. But you also have a playbook that you can rewrite. And I really get excited about those opportunities. So I think the foundational piece of the people is that you need to bring in people who have had experiences in the old pharma model, but you also have to sprinkle in people who are complete disruptors, who are folks who didn't operate in that paradigm and question every single decision in that paradigm. And I think with the mix of those experienced folks and some contrarian thinkers, you can come up with some really interesting and innovative marketing idea. So I think it's the people that are first important. I think some of the capabilities in the process are also important. You have to run a business. So for example, we had to build a supply chain in the US. We had to build licensing in the US. We are a regulated product, just like any other pharmaceutical product. So, obtaining licensing from state boards of pharmacies, you just can't underestimate, how many things really need to get built from ground zero. And then once you've got them all built, then they all have to work together. So we're in a phase of our introduction of our product to the market where we've deliberately chosen to go slow so that we can really pressure test our system and make sure it works. I'll give you an example of something that didn't, work. We loaded our product into Epic or into the compendium at the end of the year, expecting it would get loaded into Epic right away. And that didn't happen. So all of a sudden we find ourselves operationally working with institutions and physicians in a fax workaround, which physicians don't really love to do because it's time consuming. They just want to go onto their EHR and, find your product and be done. So I think you have to be adaptive. You have to be able to solve problems. And I think you have to be able to be agile and move quickly, because your plan that you've now just built is irrelevant. So I think that there's a certain amount of flexibility and agility that's required.
Yeah, absolutely. And fully agree with you on the people side. It's certainly something we spend a lot of time thinking about: when to bring in commercial talent, how to build that team. When do you think is the right time to start building that commercial organization from your experience?
I think you get one chance to develop a product. So I'm an early proponent of bringing in commercial capabilities at the R&D stage of product development. And I think that is important for many reasons, but probably the most critical one is that if you're going to introduce a new product into any market, whether it's the US or in any global market, you must have something that is differentiated and that has a unique value proposition. Because otherwise, you are not going to get payers to pay for you. Physicians may adopt you, but they may not adopt you at the rate that you would like. And most importantly, you need to offer a better standard of care to a patient. So I think having the commercial voice infused early on is an important piece of the overall corporate strategy. But it certainly has, implications, at every stage of development.
Let's look to the future now. What trends in commercialization strategy from both big pharma and small biotech do you think we'll see more of in 2023, 2024 and beyond?
Well, I think the power of the patient and the power of the consumer is a really big trend. We are becoming our own physicians in some cases. We have to be in charge of our own healthcare decision-making in very complicated insurance systems and complicated healthcare systems. So I think the power of the patient is the first trend. I do see really interesting accelerators of innovation, whether it's in the gene editing and splicing space or in the space that I'm working in right now, which is more on the bio medical side. So we have a device that acts like a drug that actually offers, comparable treatment with fewer side effects. So I think you are seeing a lot of innovation and trends on the technology that can be accelerators of better care, frankly, in many disease areas, if not, transformative curative care, at least better symptomatic relief. I think the other trend is, and I think this is one that we're going to be dealing with for probably the next 12 to 18 months, is a lot of economic uncertainty. And that causes organizations and decision makers to store their resources a little bit more carefully. It might create a little bit more business risk for expansion and or raising money, as the case that I currently in with my company. We're in a capital raise phase. There's still capital available, but I think that the hurdles for getting it are a little bit higher. But the bottom line is that, I think the pharma business and the biotechnology business is a very durable one. We all, need health care services and products. And I think that we'll see that change over time, meaning the economic piece of it. But I do think that companies like ours and others will have to think really carefully about risk, as we move forward.
Thanks again, Cathy. Great to have had you on the Venari podcast.
Joe, it was my pleasure. Thank you again. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.